The showdown in the SEC championship will probably determine who is the 2 seed going into the college football playoff, getting that first round bye. It's a rematch of what we saw, 6-7 weeks ago when Georgia went into Austin, dominated that game. But despite that, Texas opens as a slight favorite. And I remember talking after that game, be like, you don't want to, like, that's not a game that's going to change. But now that we're 6-7 weeks ahead and we've seen a lot from Georgia since that day, I will say, I think it comes down to the quarterback play.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to, one, Georgia has to protect Carson Beck, because if you look at his numbers under pressure, he's the worst quarterback in the NCAA. With no pressure, he's the best quarterback in the NCAA. So it's a very, very different Carson Beck when pressure. And as we've talked about, this Georgia offensive line has struggled protecting him at times and has struggled running the football. But the one thing about Texas, right?
They suck.
Everyone thinks about Texas coming in this year. Oh, Quinn Ewers, Heisman candidate. Like, they're going to throw it all over the yard. That's not who Texas has been. Texas is a glorified Michigan from last year. Like, they want to run the football, control the clock, do some play action like J.J. McCarthy did, get a big play here and there, sprinkle in Arse Manning running, and then they want to play defense. That's what they want to do. And what's been the hardest way to beat Georgia? That formula.
Yeah, I don't see this game going any differently than it went the first time. And that game wasn't even close. And Carson Beck played awful that game. And since that moment, maybe a couple of games after that, since that moment, he's been the best quarterback in the country, arguably the best quarterback in the country from a stat perspective. And he's been doing it with virtually no help. I mean, I watched, I don't know how many balls hit Georgia receivers in the face. I mean, like, cartoon characters hit him in the face mask. Like, nobody is helping Carson Beck, and he's still doing it all. I think that when you go into a game like this, and what happened in Austin, and you're going to still try and give, I don't know what more you have to see from Quinn Ewers to know he's not a big game quarterback. He's not an anything quarterback. He shouldn't be playing on Sundays, in my opinion. He should be backing up somebody. I don't know how much more you have to see to stop doubting Kirby Smart. Now, this is not even close to the best Kirby Smart, not even close to the best Kirby Smart coach team. But I have seen this same song and dance, and I'd rather put my money on the horse that's won me time and time and time again. Like, I don't know how anybody in their right mind watch Texas play. Like, at what point, play devil's advocate. At what point, if you had to, convinced you since that game, Texas has not lost a football game, that tells you they can beat Georgia this time in Atlanta, and Texas is going to travel, but you would think it would at least be 51-49 in that building.
I think Texas's defense has been the one thing that they've been able to lean on, and it's been the one thing that's been the most impressive aspect of their team. And when you're talking about what we've talked about Georgia struggling with, it's been on the offensive side of the ball. Now, I don't think Texas is going to go out there and blow Georgia offensively. They're not going to score a bunch of points. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a low scoring matchup. So I think, if they can make it a one possession game, and frankly, listen, like, Carson Beck had a good game against Tennessee. He obviously played great in the second half against Georgia Tech, but this is a step up in competition. He has struggled a lot in big games. And frankly, as you said, he has absolutely no help. So against a great defense like this, like, it wouldn't shock me if Carson Beck goes out there and makes several turnovers and makes several game changing plays in the wrong direction.
That is the argument. And the counter argument would be, what offenses have they completely shut down? Oklahoma without Jackson Arnold, Texas A&M, who can't, they are a pathetic offense. What they did to LSU needs to be studied. I mean, Texas's defense, yes, maybe improved, but it hasn't. I'm telling you, this Georgia offense is better than it is given credit for. And that's because of the first half of the season, and they don't run the ball very well. If I was Texas, well, I've been saying this since the beginning of the year, that they should be playing Arch Manning. What does Georgia's defense struggle with?
Running quarterbacks. Listen, I expect them to use a lot of Arch Manning.
They should.
I expect them to use
Quinn Ewers shouldn't even dress out.
I expect them to use a lot of Arch Manning. I expect it to be, we saw it a little bit against Texas A&M. I expect it to be a heavy dose. I mean, you saw what Haynes King did, and I think Arch Manning is just as good, if not, but he might not be as tough as Haynes King, but he's a better athlete. He's a better athlete. Faster. I don't think there's any doubt with that. But I think that's the kind of game Texas is going to try to play. Mm-hmm. They're going to try to run the football. They're going to try to limit possessions, and they're going to try to make Carson Beck make mistakes. And in a game, if they can make it, an 8-possession game on each side, right? Mm-hmm. And they can get 2 or 3 turnovers out of Carson Beck, you like your chances. And I think that's I think that's the goal with Texas. I think that's who they want to be. And as I said, though, Georgia loves playing that game too, though. They love saying, hey, defense on the field. Y'all are going to try to run the football. Hey, pin the ears back. They love doing that too. Smash mouth football, when I said about Texas, like that is who they are. So you're trying to beat Georgia at their own game. That's a very difficult thing to do, but it comes down to Carson Beck and protecting the football. If he doesn't go out there and make boneheaded plays and fall behind 14-0 or something, like, you love Georgia's chances. Yeah. But the thing is, we've seen him do it.
He hasn't done it in more than a month.
Yeah.
More than a month. Like
you're
6
right.
weeks.
But don't tell me that ain't in there. don't tell me that ain't in there.
He's got that dog in him. Yeah, he's very susceptible. I mean, that first game, he was everybody out in Georgia. I mean, the defense was phenomenal, but Carson Beck was trying to give that game away, and Quinn Ewers in Texas just wouldn't take it. Now, I do not think that's going to happen on either side, but I know I've been saying this, and it is my agenda, and I would love to be right at some point, but I'm serious that I think the game plan should be exactly what Georgia Tech did, because Texas's offensive line is serious. It's a very, very good offensive line. And you just throw Arch Manning in there and make him have to defend 11 guys.
Well, I'll tell you what. Steve Sarkisian isn't a guy that's going to just be like, hey, Quinn Ewers, you're in there for no reason. I sincerely think if he thinks Arch Manning's going to give him the best chance at any point, he will. Right. I mean, we saw him do it in the first game. Yeah. It wouldn't shock me if that's
and then went right back. That's crazy.
Yeah, but it wouldn't shock me if they go, like, especially how is Quinn Ewers' ankle? Is he fully healthy? Like, he looked okay against A&M, but not fantastic. So it wouldn't, and that's the other thing. As good as, Kirby Smart is, and you give him a second chance against an offense, can Steve Sarkisian mix stuff up enough with Arch Manning to create problems? Because Steve Sarkisian now knows what Georgia's defense is going to do. We call him one of the best offensive minds in college football and probably all of football. Can he create problems? Because this defense has flaws. He's now has a whole 13 weeks of tape to go back and look at what they've struggled with. Can Steve Sarkisian? So there are some aspects that make me feel like Texas could play better in this game. I'm with you, though. Like, if I'm choosing a coach, I'm going with Kirby Smart. I'm trusting that he can get his dogs ready and win this game again. But it's the playing a good team twice. It's playing a great coach twice. It's being susceptible on offense to turnovers. Yeah. Like, there's some aspects here where I'm like, hey, don't just count this as a win if you're Georgia. And I don't think anyone over there is doing that.
No, I think I might not touch it in terms of the gambling aspect of it. But if the public is all over Texas, I'll be all over Georgia.
I got to think the public will favor Georgia just based off what happened last week, right? But who knows? Who knows? I think it's going to be a fantastic game. Welcome to the SEC. Texas got to the SEC Championship cupcake schedule, but hey, you deserve it. And let's see what happens this week in Mercedes-Benz Stadium.